April 16, 2012. Security cameras roll capturing a man as he enters a storage facility in Portland, Oregon. He was once an intelligence officer, a master of disguise who felt at home in the corridors of power. Now, beaten down after decades on the run, his life is a tangle of lies, and each step is a struggle. He's on his way to locker 646, where he stashed the secrets to his very survival. To authorities, he's known as Mr. X, a fitting name for a man cloaked in mystery.
The mystery has not been unraveled, and might be stranger than what we already know.
Dr. Patrick Bray knows that service to country involves great sacrifice. The Navy paid for him to go to medical school and sent him all over the world.
As a Navy doctor, I know firsthand some of the hardships that this works on people. You know, it's tough to be deployed if your wife's pregnant and you're not going to be there and they're having troubles at home. It's difficult.
After leaving the military, Bray practices medicine in Cleveland, Ohio. In 2007, he gets a call from a fundraiser.
I'm usually hang up right away on the telemarketer, but he said Navy, and that kept me on the phone.
Representatives of a charity called the U.S. Navy Veterans Association tell Bray they're sending care packages to troops and supporting local vets in need. They aren't asking for much, and Bray writes them 2 checks totaling $300.
Just the name was, sounded legitimate. U.S. Navy veterans. Who's against that?
As Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine will later see, Bray is just one target among thousands in a relentless telemarketing blitz.
I think most Americans have a soft spot in their heart for veterans and feel that we owe them a lot.
Claiming a history dating back to 1927, the U.S. Navy Veterans Association, or USNVA, says it has 66,000 members, 41 state chapter offices, and a headquarters in Washington, D.C. Its CEO, Jack Nimitz, shares a last name with Chester Nimitz, commander of the Pacific Fleet during World War II. In Ohio, Assistant Attorney General Brad Tamaro says the USNVA seems like the right organization at the right moment.
I think at this time in our history, there is a strong patriotic feeling. There's a strong desire to help the veterans that are coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq.
The charity has been recognized by the Department of Veterans Affairs and granted tax-exempt status by the IRS. 41 states allow the association to operate after it files registration documents and keeps them current year after year. Though these papers list scores of officers, in truth, one man is behind it all, Commander Bobby Thompson. Thompson says he's a retired Navy lieutenant commander with a background in intelligence. He hires Helen McMurray to be the USNVA's attorney, and she believes in him 100%.
No one loved this country more than he did. No one was a greater patriot. No one talked more about liberty and freedom and his appreciation for it than him.
The charity touts an 80-year history, but Thompson first files registration documents in the early 2000s, not long after showing up in Tampa, Florida.
When he first started off, there wasn't a whole lot of money coming in, and he was doing everything by himself. And it wasn't until he hired those professional fundraisers that things really seemed to take off.
The telemarketing firms Thompson hires will eventually help his charity bring in millions. They are allowed to pocket an astounding 85% of what they raise, and they don't ask many questions about Commander Thompson.
If you want to look at it with a jaundiced eye, so to speak, you could say they were being paid a lot of money to do what they were doing. They asked a question. they got an answer. The answer seemed legitimate, and they didn't dig any deeper.
As a former Ohio Assistant Attorney General, McMurray once went after charity cheats. Now she works for nonprofits and telemarketers, helping them to clear regulatory hurdles.
Bobby Thompson calls me up and he said that, these gosh darn regulators just keep trying to tell me what to do. He was the most passionate person I have ever heard talk about these issues on anything with anybody ever. I mean, when you're paying a lawyer hourly, you don't sit there and talk for hours and hours, and that's what he did.
McMurray says she's not the only one to hear the commander's self-serving, anti-regulatory message.
He regularly interacted with different important political people. The same message is that, we should be able to do what we want, whenever we want to do it, however we want to do it. That's our right.
As the U.S. NVA grows into a multi-million-dollar operation, Thompson becomes a big-time donor to politicians, most of them Republicans. The commander has his photo taken with presidential candidates John McCain and Rudolph Giuliani, Speaker of the House John Boehner, Presidential Advisor Karl Rove, and President George W. Bush. He's not afraid to share these pictures with others.
He was trying to show he was a big shot, that he had a lot of pull with people due to his position with the U.S. NVA.
By 2009, tax returns say the U.S. Navy Veterans Association has brought in close to $100 million.
It was a money-making business. He had money coming in hand over fist. If he had not had that altercation with the reporter, he would have kept taking the money.
In August 2009, investigative reporter Jeff Testerman is on his way to see Bobby Thompson about a donation he's made to a local politician in Tampa, Florida.
My expectation was that I would talk to this retired Navy guy, and I'd have a nice quote for the bottom of my story, about this county commissioner. It didn't go like that at all.
When Testerman gets to the commander's home, it hardly seems a fitting place for a retired Navy officer running a multi-million-dollar charity.
He was stuck in a hole across from a cigar factory with barbed wire around it. If you're looking to kind of keep a low profile, no better place.
Thompson has his apartment on one side of his duplex and the office from which he runs his charity on the other. His windows are covered with an odd mix of stickers. Inside, he scrawls bizarre messages on nailed-up boards. And in the kitchen, he's said to keep tequila by the caseful.
This guy was no dummy. And yet, the place he's living is a dump. He might have a little bit of a screw loose, He became openly hostile, aggressive. He basically threw me off his property.
Intrigued, Testerman returns to his office and discusses the strange encounter with the newspaper's head researcher, John Martin.
And I said, I just went over to see this guy, and this Lieutenant Commander Bobby Thompson was just all over me, like a vulture on roadkill. What do you think?
They think it's time to dig deeper and begin by looking at the association's at times rambling website. Among 85 names they find connected to the charity, one sticks out, that of the association's listed CEO.
Jack Nimitz, this famous Navy name. Let's find him, let's call him and find out what's going on. And Jack Nimitz was nowhere to be found.
Over the next few months, they continue searching and get similar results.
They were supposed to have a board of 12 people. They were supposed to have 85 officers in state chapters around the country. They were supposed to have 66,000 dues-paying members. We never found anything except Bobby Thompson.
But even information on Commander Thompson is elusive. He's like a man without a past.
the sort of background that real people like me, have. There wasn't anything. He might as well have landed in Tampa on a spaceship from Mars.
September 4th, 2008. Before a cheering crowd in Detroit City Hall, embattled Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick gives an emotional televised speech. Despite the upbeat atmosphere, the mayor has a serious message to deliver.
I've often said that you have to stand strong for the city of Detroit, but sometimes standing strong means stepping down.
After a turbulent 6.5 years in office, the mayor is resigning and heading to jail. Earlier that day, he pleaded guilty to 2 felony counts of obstructing justice after lying under oath during a police whistleblower trial.
Amazing. And it was a huge story, and it was amazing. It was historic.
Despite facing 120 days in jail and $1 million in restitution, Kilpatrick's tone is anything but defeatist.
We fall, but this city always gets up. And I want to tell you, Detroit, that you done set me up for a comeback.
And so even right down to the end, even after being sentenced to jail, it was hard not to believe him. He continued to rebound from everything that was ever thrown at him.
But there will be no comeback this time. The worst is yet to come. Over the next few years, the mayor will be at the center of one of the largest municipal corruption probes in U.S. history, in which the government accuses him of running the city like a crime boss. But this wasn't supposed to be the script for Kwame Kilpatrick. He was supposed to be different. The native son destined to turn around his faltering Rust Belt city. The hip-hop mayor who would provide a new model of what a public official could be.
He was Barack Obama before Barack Obama knew who he was. He knew how to talk to people. He had it going on.
Adolph Mongo is a veteran political consultant and one-time aide to former Detroit Mayor Coleman Young. He's known the Kilpatrick family for decades.
Oh, they had a great name, you know. Lots of years in the political circles, had a lot of influence.
Kwame is the son of Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, a former Michigan State representative and future 7-term U.S. Congresswoman. His father is Bernard Kilpatrick, a former Wayne County commissioner and power broker in the region's Democratic machine.
He was sheltered. His mother and father took care of him. They were divorced. He went to Florida A&M, played football.
In 1996, just 4 years after earning a degree in political science, Kwame enters the family business. He wins a seat in the Michigan State Legislature and quickly makes a name for himself.
Had a leadership post in the Democratic Party, had charisma. So, yeah, he was a good state rep.
While the young legislator thrives in Lansing, his hometown isn't faring as well. During the 1990s, nearly 80,000 residents leave Detroit. By 2001, unemployment is at 10% and rising.
Clinton had a successful 8 years in office. These were some great times. And the city of Detroit did not benefit from it. And people was looking for somebody new. They was looking for a fresh face, somebody young.
In the run-up to the 2001 mayor's election, a group of Detroit businessmen, the African American Men's Organization, or AMO, is conducting a search for a candidate to represent their interests. The Kilpatrick men are members of that group.
Well, this is, if you look in the back, the innocent Kwame Kilpatrick.
Larry Mongo is the older brother of Adolph Mongo and a founding member of AMO.
Every Friday or Wednesday, twice a week, we all met. And most of these men were self-made men or high political positions. But then we said, why not get us a young John F. Kennedy? Why not get us a young black guy, post-civil rights? That's our person.
Larry says that during one of AMMO's weekly meetings, Kwame Kilpatrick tells the group that he recently received a sign. During a prayer session, Kwame says he opened up his Bible and landed on the story of David, who was anointed king of Israel at the age of 30.
He says, so I'll tell y'all I will run. And here's a young black guy talking about the Bible. We think it's superstitious. You go against a good kid like that. So we did. We said, okay, Kwame, you did it.
Kilpatrick's youth makes him a long shot in the race, but with his good name, his natural charm, and the financial support of AMMO, he has a fighting chance.
We put up all this money. We knew we controlled the streets. We knew we controlled the right preachers.
Kevin Dietz is an investigative reporter with WDIV in Detroit.
At first, nobody thought Kilpatrick had a chance, but he just wowed the crowd everywhere he went. He just had this charisma about him.
We want our citizens to go to the ballot box and decide whether they want to move forward or they want to stay in the mud.
In an upset, Kwame wins the election, becoming the youngest mayor in the city's history at just 31 years of age.
We were excited about this young new mayor who was going to come in and make Detroit different.
But during that night's celebration, Larry Mongo says the new mayor makes a curious statement.
When he got elected mayor, I swear to you, he approached me and said, Mr. Mongo, I said, well, I don't want to go to jail. And I laughed and I said, man, I said, the last thing you have to worry about is going to jail.
Detroit, 2002. Shortly after taking office, new mayor Kwame Kilpatrick has residents of the city feeling good once again.
How you doing?
Okay,
You all right? How's everything?
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I know you're going to take care of it.
Thank you.
The big man has big plans, demolishing abandoned buildings, revitalizing neighborhoods, and bringing business back to the Motor City.
He's so likable. You just are certain that he's going to be able to get the attention of Washington and get dollars brought into Detroit, get business to invest in the city.
Kilpatrick embodied the best and the brightest of what Detroit had produced.
Sheila Cockrell is a member of the Detroit City Council. She is impressed by the new mayor's enthusiasm.
They had put together this strategic management center, and it was really good ideas, good, rock-solid public policy stuff.
Though he has good ideas, the new mayor relies on a questionable group to carry out his vision. Kilpatrick's administration is stacked with friends and family, including old high school pals Christine Beatty as his chief of staff and Derek Miller as his chief administrative officer.
The friends and family plan was big. He hired dozens of people, appointed them. They got the best jobs, and they got the most money to do them.
Bernard Kilpatrick, the mayor's father, also plays a role in the city's operations. Shortly before his son takes office, Bernard sets up a new consulting firm, Maestro Associates.
What is a maestro? You see? In other words, he told everybody, I'm in charge. You wanted something done, you had to go to Bernard, the consultant, maestro. Maestro pre-approve it, then you will meet with the son.
Despite the red flags, the Kilpatrick administration is off to a roaring start. The mayor's big plans and even bigger personality make him a local celebrity.
How y'all doing today? All right? How are you? How's everything? I saw you sneaking a picture. You could have just said, hey.
He felt that he was just bigger than life. He was believing his own press, that he was just the greatest thing ever.
It's not uncommon to see the mayor flaunt his newfound status around town.
He was going to these clubs, hung out with all the football players come in town. You can see him at the games. You can see him everywhere.
When he went out to dinner, he'd get up and walk out of the restaurant without paying the bill. He'd say, well, why would I pay the bill? I'm the mayor. He would take 8, 10 bodyguards everywhere he went. But it was about the show. It was about being Kwame Kilpatrick.
But the mayor's celebrity lifestyle would soon catch up with him. More than 1 million Americans serve in active duty in the U.S. military, fighting for freedom at home and abroad. For many, U.S. troops are held with great respect and admiration. Amy Bouchatz is a reporter and editor for military.com.
I think that there's also something to be said for a man in uniform. I mean, everybody loves a man in uniform, right? And so, and military members are typically very fit. So uniform, fit, handsome.
But according to her husband, a major in the Alaska National Guard, crooks have another idea.
Americans love American soldiers because American soldiers protect them. So how can I use that to exploit people and take from them?
In the age of catfishing, it's easy for con artists to assume the identity of a hero. And it's even easier for these false heroes to trick victims into handing over their wallets in the name of love.
I don't think people realize the enormity of the scam that's going on a daily basis. Every day, they're out there trolling the internet looking for unsuspecting victims. They're throwing in the fishing line and looking for someone who's vulnerable and is open to a relationship. And once they snag them, they reel them in and they take millions of dollars.
I'm a hopeless romantic, so I thought maybe I would meet my husband online.
Lilo Schuster is a chiropractic physician living in Illinois. In 2009, she goes on Match.com looking for someone special.
My dating history would be I would go out with somebody for, 3 months, 6 months, and I could not date somebody for 2 years, 3 years. And so my heart was really hurting. I was really sad. I was desperate. I was just kind of fed up.
For years, Lilo yearns to start a family of her own. At one point, even spending $20,000 on artificial insemination, but unfortunately with no results.
I actually prayed to God, and I said, will you please send me a widow with a child? Because I love children, and by the time I'm 45, I thought, well, I probably won't have children of my own.
Miraculously, the next morning, she checks her computer and her prayers have been answered.
I can't believe it. I had this email from my widow, and he has a child, and he's in Afghanistan, and he's fighting the terrorists, and he's a pilot, and I thought my prayers had been answered.
His name, he says, is Officer Adam Smith.
We started to email back and forth, and he sends me attractive pictures, saying kind things and how beautiful that I am, and by the end of the year, he wants to be able to come back and we can create a family together. So these kinds of things that I wanted to hear, and it felt really nice, actually.
Officer Smith tells Lilo his wife died tragically not long ago, and he's left with a sick daughter to care for.
I love children. I always wanted them, and not having my own, that certainly was a way to connect.
But within a few weeks of their relationship, a problem comes up with his daughter.
His daughter, who was in the United Kingdom with his mom, was going to school, and they were going to go on a school trip.
He asks for her help to pay for the trip, and he would, of course, pay her back. Lilo devotedly goes to Western Union, where she wires $2,700 to the UK. At this point, she has known him online for only 4 weeks.
You feel like you're contributing to your relationship, that you're helping his daughter be able to go on a trip that he couldn't provide for her, but, you know, he'll pay me back, is what he had said.
That same year in Colorado, a 38-year-old single mother and hairdresser named Tracy Vasseur has a very similar experience. As she later tells investigators in an interview at her home, Vasseur meets a person online claiming his name is Captain Jeffrey Lawrence.
And he was like, oh, I have a son, and he was supposed to be in Afghanistan. And he's like, I have a son, and his name is Paul, and I'm widowed. My wife is dead, and someone watches after him because I have no family.
In the same fashion, shortly after they start their online romance, her new beau has a problem. His son is in desperate need of cash.
And then he was like, oh, he doesn't have any money. Could you send some money?
In reality, neither of these women are talking to an officer in Afghanistan. And their stories have an all too common theme.
The MO is all the same. I'm a single father, my wife, I'm a widower, I'm raising a 5-year-old girl, and they play on the emotions of the victims.
I didn't feel that it was a scam from the beginning. I felt that there was something that was off. I didn't know what it was.
I speak to hundreds of victims, and it's hard for them to believe that they're being scammed. Someone is playing on your emotions, and they're making millions of dollars off of unsuspecting victims.
In Brighton, Colorado, 38-year-old single mom Tracy Vasseur is living the dream, quite literally, because her new love is all just a fantasy. As her first relationship fades, Tracy is introduced to a new online romantic interest named Kels Klein. He claims to be a sergeant stationed in Afghanistan and knows Captain Lawrence. Klein and Tracy hit it off immediately.
Mr. Klein, at least in the beginning, made Tracy believe that he loved her, and they, at some point, were exchanging emails expressing their love for each other and wanting to be together in the future.
Tracy is then asked for a favor.
He was like, I need an agent to pick up money, and I'm like, what?
Sometimes the fraudsters then flip or turn these original victims into mules themselves to take in money from other victims and open bank accounts and then transfer yet more money.
Sergeant Kels Klein tells Tracy Vasseur she'll be transferring money from people all over the world to Nigeria for a charity fund for U.S. soldiers. She'll be acting as an agent for the government.
It gives an air of legitimacy to the intended victim, like, well, I'm not wiring the money overseas, I'm not sending it to Nigeria. Everybody knows that's a fraud. I'm sending it to this woman named Tracy Vasseur that I've been told in this letter with military letterhead that she's the agent.
In exchange for her help, Kels offers Tracy a small percentage of the money she is transferring to help cover fees. One transaction leads to many, and Tracy starts taking in thousands of dollars from women all over the world and sends it to various places dictated by Sergeant Klein.
They reached out via IM message. She would be instructed on when to collect it and directions on where it had to go, who it had to be sent to.
In her correspondence with Klein, Tracy starts negotiating for a bigger cut of the profit. One message states, I can't do this for free, especially since I'm the one taking all the risk. Soon, she is opening bank account after bank account in an effort to hide the large amounts of money she is receiving and then immediately sending out.
Numerous bank accounts at numerous banks all around the state because various banks or money remitter would get wise and move her down the road. So she'd have to come up with different names or excuses for people to accept that money. And all the while, taking some for yourself and pushing that money back to the Nigerians.
Her involvement became so extensive, and when she was wiring amounts in the tens of thousands of dollars, told us that she didn't believe that this was something that was legitimate. She knew what she was doing.
It becomes so lucrative for Tracy She even brings her own 71-year-old mother, Karen, into the scam as well.
She involved her mother in collecting that money, and we even believe she recruited family members to in fact assist with this, because it did get quite busy.
But then the Brighton, Colorado Police Department gets a call from a woman in North Carolina. She says she sent a military agent named Tracy Vasseur $2,000, but now believes it was a scam. Authorities look into the allegations and find enough evidence to support her claim. Stacy Keach here, feeling greedy for more videos like this one? Then be sure to like and subscribe right here on CNBC Prime.